fight. So let me just talk about some of the historic accomplishments that Canelo has. He has been unified champion in three divisions so far. 154, he was the WBC WBA champion. 160, he was the WBC WBA and IBF world champion. And 168, he's currently the WBC and WBA world champion. Very impressive. He's a lineal champion in two divisions, 160, 168. Again, very impressive. He's a four division world champion, 154, 160, 168, 175. He has beaten to become these champions. At 154, he beat the number two 154 pounder in the division. He was the number one contender. The number two contender was Austin Trout. He then went on to lose to the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, Floyd Mayweather. He then went on to face the number one super welterweight in the world, which was Arislan Lara. And I heard Demetrius Andrade arguing about that, but Demetrius Andrade wasn't on the scene at the time. He was definitely not the number one super welterweight in the world. He then went on to face the number one, the lineal at least, middleweight in the world, which was Miguel Cotto. He then went on to face the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, was Gennady Golovkin, according to ESPN, not according to anything else. And also, he was the unified WBC WBA champion. He had lost his IBF strap at the time, so he did not want to face Derek Vachenko. So he faced those guys. Then he went on to face the number one contender, which was Danny Jacobs. He then went up to 175, and he faced, I think it was the number three, something like that. The number three, I think, light heavyweight in the world, which was Sergey Kovalev at the time. I believe Bivol had just beaten Adonis Stevenson. Bivol. Gavordik had just beaten Adonis Stevenson. I think Bivol was the WBA champion, and Artur Beterbiev was the IBF champion. So I think he was ranked number three or number four light heavyweight in the world, something like that. So anyway, he faced him. And after that, his most recent accomplishment is beating the number one super middleweight in the world, which is Callum Smith, which was Callum Smith. Now, in the fight, I found out that Callum Smith actually either detached his bicep, so his bicep actually ripped out of his hand, or what happened was he had it extended. Whatever it is, it doesn't look good at all. It's swelling up and stuff. Kudos to Callum Smith. He actually didn't have the proper use of his left hand, even though he was using it throughout the fight. Kudos to him on that. Fought like a true champion. I thought that even though he took a lot of punishment, and really, even though he tried to do his thing in there, was somewhat unsuccessful. I still give him mad props, and I hope that Callum Smith keeps his head up, and I hope that he learns from this experience. Canelo had the same experience with Floyd Mayweather, and when you face a pound for pound number one fighter in the world, or top three pound for pound fighter in the world, whichever you want to go with, you're gonna find there are levels to the game. And Teofimo Lopez happened to beat Vasily Lomachenko, but Callum Smith, there's no shame in losing to Canelo Alvarez. Okay, the guy is pound for pound, number one or number two for a reason. So no matter what don't be ashamed of that. And Kelsey, keep your head up. He didn't exactly get to do what exactly he wanted to do in that fight, but he did not make no excuses. I love that. True champion. Didn't make any excuses. Everybody could see his hand was messed up. Okay. It happened in the fight, so that's just a byproduct of the fight. I guess when he was throwing the hook to hit Canelo in the head, I guess somewhere when he hit Canelo or something, it probably hit the hand wrong or whatever and popped the muscle. It is what happens. It happens. These things happen in boxing. He made no excuses. He still used the arm, still used the hand. Obviously, wouldn't have the kind of usage that it would normally have. But he did his thing, and I got to give him mad props. As you can see, coming to the 12th round, he was putting the hand down because the hand was starting to get messed up really bad. All right, so he couldn't use it like he wanted to. But I got to give him mad props, man. I give this dude mad props. It's not just that he had mad heart. His defense was pretty good. Canelo couldn't just land shots on him. So Callum Smith, even in this loss, I hope that Callum Smith will take this as a learning experience. Now, having said all of that, I listened to David Benavidez' comments on the fight. I listened to Demetrius Andre's comments on the fight. I didn't see Jamal Charles' comments. Billy Joe Saunders' comments on the fight. Billy Joe Saunders obviously wants that fight. Billy Joe Saunders will fight Canelo much differently. So would Demetrius Andre. My thing is, because Eddie Hearn's trying to get busy facing Billy Joe Saunders. No. Eddie Hearn create an opportunity for Demetrius Andre to be in that fray. We want to see Demetrius Andre versus Canelo. So he's your guy. So I hope that instead of seeing a Billy Joe Saunders fight, we see Billy Joe Saunders face Demetrius Andre. That Canelo will face somebody else in the interim. This David Benavidez. I'm not really keen on the Yildirim thing, but the David Benavidez fight is a good fight for Canelo. Or Callum Smith fight is a good fight for Canelo. If Callum Smith's kind of young. I don't know, man. But might as well take the challenge now, Callum Smith. But Canelo Benavidez could face Callum Smith next, and Canelo could face Yildirim next. So or I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But my thing is, because the WBC has a mandatory, now I don't know how they're going to implement that mandatory. My feeling on the moment is, I believe that Canelo's going to face Yildirim next. That's what I think is going to happen. And Yildirim's an inside fighter. So, and Canelo's faced a lot of inside fighters, and he's really good at inside fighting. So, but I think Canelo's going to face Yildirim next because Yildirim gave Anthony Durrell a really tough fight. He lost it, but he gave Anthony Durrell a really tough fight. So, and remember, Andre Durrell is still in that division. You got the Durrell brothers who are in that division, Anthony and Andre Durrell. Okay, so let's not forget that. But my thing is this: that if he faces Yildirim next, which I'm not mad at, it gives us time to see Callum Smith get some time, Billy Joe Saunders get tested. And I really truly believe Billy Joe Saunders needs to be tested by Demetrius Andre. And the best guy out of that should face Canelo. And if I was to advise Canelo on this issue, I'm telling you, Canelo, somebody can get this to Canelo. Canelo, man, listen. It's about the best fighting the best. You should let those two guys fight it out. Don't give Billy Joe Saunders this opportunity after all the stupidness that he did and threw away the fight, the last fight. And I know they're in negotiations to have that fight happen. But I'm telling you, man, people are going to knock you for seemingly avoiding a Demetrius Andre. You need to get Demetrius Andre out of the way. And that's a fight you should face now, not 10 years from now, not 12 years from now, not 5 years from now. That's a fight. The longer you put it off, it's only the better Demetrius Andre is going to get. Not that it matters, but Canelo must face Demetrius Andre, like Oscar De La Hoya said, and he must face Jamal Charlo. And that should not be the later fights in their career. That should be a fight that they face each other as soon as possible. Canelo has been in several divisions with these guys. Demetrius Andre is going to be in the third division with Canelo. And still Canelo would not have faced Demetrius Andre. And there's no reason why Canelo cannot face Demetrius Andre. He was with Demetrius Andre at 154. He was with Demetrius Andre at 160. Now, Demetrius Andre is looking to come up to 168, and I hope that Demetrius Andre goes up to 168. Forget about the 160 title. Go up to 168, commit to 168. Yeah. Actually, Canelo has a belt at 160. So, but anyway, go up to 168 and face Canelo because Canelo needs to face Demetrius Andre. And I'm hoping because this is not cool. This is not cool. I'm seeing Canelo. He's constantly moving away from these guys. He's constantly. This is why he's trying to. This is what Canelo's trying to do. He's trying to steal up all the belts before Demetrius Andre comes up there and spoils it. That's why he's trying to get all the titles at once. I understand the game plan that they're trying to do. I don't know if it's because Canelo doesn't want to give a black fighter a paycheck. Why is it that black fighters always have the hardest time in boxing? Right? You're going to give Caleb Plant a paycheck before Demetrius Andre. Caleb Plant's the same kind of fighter. Billy Joe Saunders is the same kind of fighter as Demetrius Andre. Why do you not want to give black fighters a paycheck? So I do not understand it, and I do not like it. And I honestly am going to speak from my heart on this issue. And this is just from my heart. This is not nothing to do with facts. I don't like when people move like that. Right? And it's not that necessarily Demetrius Andre will beat Canelo. Okay? Because we see Canelo has slickness and all of that stuff. But my thing is, why aren't you giving Demetrius Andre the shot? I don't understand that part. Are you not even allowing the guy to get in a position? Everybody wants to see Canelo versus Jamal Charlo as well. Now, Canelo's saying he will stay at 168. It's going to be 160 or 168. He's not moving up to cruiserweight. He's not going to move up to 175. Okay, fine. Fine. But come on, man. It looks like you're running from these guys. And I just don't like it. I don't like it. And you can see that Demetrius Andrews kind of angry because he was trying to get the Billy Joe Saunders fight. And he knows it's slipping from his hands because now Saunders is going to get the Canelo fight where really Saunders should really face him before he faces Canelo. Because I'm going to tell you, Canelo's a different animal. And Billy Joe Saunders should get he should get passed through as much fire as possible because when he goes to face Canelo, he's not beating Canelo like that. He thinks Canelo's easy work. Canelo's not easy work. Okay? And the fact that he gets hit with lead right hands so easily, he needs to work on his game. Because we saw flaws in his game. He's getting tattooed by that guy from, what was it, Argentina, I think it was. I think it was Argentina. He was tattooed. He took the guy out, but the guy was tattooing. So, and Canelo would do the same. My thing is this. I would like to see Billy Joe Saunders earn something for a change. He's taking things the easy way. He's been taking easy strokes. His only tough fight has been Andy Lee. That was his tough fight. And also Chris Eubank Jr. Those were his two tough fights. And Billy Joe Saunders does not stay in condition properly. Right? The only way this Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders fight can actually work, because any weakness that Billy Joe Saunders shows, by the way, you didn't see Canelo fade in that fight against Callum Smith, by the way. People talk about Canelo don't have no cardio and stuff. That's not true. By the way, going back to what I said, he just didn't pace himself as well. He used to throw too many punches. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So, Billy Joe Saunders needs to go through the fire. When Eddie Hearn proposes a Billy Joe Saunders fight, Canelo should say, nope, Saunders needs to face Andre. That's what Canelo should do. Canelo, you should dictate this shit. Make Billy Joe Saunders earn his paycheck. Because you know how easy it is to run him over because he doesn't have the conditioning. You know how easy it's to run him over because he's not keeping everything on point. You keeping everything on point. You used to be the guy that had about the poor conditioning, but that's changed. Now you keeping everything on point. He's not keeping everything on point. And you need to make him honest, otherwise you get overrun by Demetrius Sanders. Supposedly Demetrius Sanders is the smaller guy coming up in weight. So Billy Joe Saunders should have the weight advantage. So let's see how Andre versus him. And if Andre prevails, then you should face Andre because you say you want to face the best. That's the right way to go. I hope Canelo does that because from all the talk I'm hearing, I hope it doesn't get messed up either. I want to see him undisputed, right? But I want to see him against Demetrius Andre. I really do. And honestly speaking, I'm gonna be honest with everybody. I think he beats Demetrius Andre. I've been saying this for a while. And the reason is because Demetrius Andre, unfortunately for him, has not been tested to the point where I'm comfortable saying that he can beat a guy like Canelo because it's almost the same thing with Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney. Devin Haney, he deserves the fight with Teofimo Lopez, and I would like to see him go against Teofimo Lopez. But well, Devin Haney was tested. He was tested against the last opponent he had. He was tested, right? And that's where he hurt his hand or something like. No, the opponent before that. Yeah, the opponent before that, not York's Gamble. The opponent before that, he was tested because he also hurt his hand. He ripped his rotator cuff, and I believe Callum Smith, when he was throwing the hook, he hurt his hand trying to hook at Canelo. I don't know if it's because he missed the hook or what. Or he punched Canelo the wrong way because in training he was doing his thing. He was looking good. You know, he hurt his hand in the fight, and that's Canelo made him hurt his hand in the fight. It is what it is. And it kind of sucks, but it was in the fight, and he, like a true champion, he fought on. But my thing is this, right? I'm not saying that Demetrius Andrade is guaranteed to beat Canelo. After I've seen the performance last night, I know Canelo has a lot of things that he does that brings to his game. So I understand, you know, and Andre, while he was a two-time world champion, maybe three-time world champion, that's why Andre and Billy Joe Saunders need each other first. They need to pass that crucible. Just imagine if Callum Smith didn't face John Ryder. Just imagine. And he just jumped up and faced Canelo. Look what would have happened. He'd have gotten stopped. Now, he had unfinished John Ryder business. And I told everybody he needed to face John Ryder and actually clearly prevail against him before he stepped up to Canelo. Now, if he had done that, which was kind of hard to do because of COVID and whatever, but if he had stepped up and faced John Ryder first, he'd have been better prepared to face Canelo, even with his hand busting out like that. You know, because if you conquer John Ryder, it means you could conquer a style like what Canelo brings to the table. But as you can see, the fight kind of went kind of like the John Ryder fight, even though it was a little bit different. But Canelo was banging that guy up, man. He was tearing him up. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's because Canelo hit him to the bicep on his left arm when he was blocking the punch. As I said before, you know, Callum Smith, he holds his guard too tight, and he could have flexed on the muscle, got hit the wrong way, and the muscle ripped. So it could have been all of that. And if you look at how Canelo picks punches and stuff, his hands are always very relaxed. You know? But whatever happened to cause that injury, I can tell you, he fought on like a true champion, which is something. That's what a true champion does. And Callum Smith should not be in any way. I know he's going to be hugely disappointed because he was fighting to win. In any way disappointed. He let down no one, not even his family. It's a learning process, and he just learned something. And learning sometimes is very unpleasant and uncomfortable. But if you take that knowledge that you got, because you just faced an all-time great, a sure first ballot Hall of Famer. That's what you just faced. You faced a guy that's going to surpass what Julio Cesar Chavez did in boxing. You faced a guy that, as people say, is James Toney meets Marvin Hagler. Is James Toney meets Julio Cesar Chavez. Is James Toney mixed Floyd Mayweather, what's his name? Pernell Whitaker, mixed with Slick Bucks. I can't remember the slick boxer's name. Mix him mix him with the Mexican spirit, the Mexican heart. You're talking Benny Briscoe is in there. You're talking Nicolina Loach is in there. There's a little bit of each one of those guys mixed with Julio Cesar Chavez, mixed with Marco Antonio Barrera, mixed with Manuel Marquez, mixed with you know all these great Mexican fighters. He's taken the best of the Mexican fighters and the best of the slick boxers, and he can put them together. He's a special dude. Canelo's a very special dude, and we're in a time where we're seeing these special dudes appear. Floyd knew from a long time ago, from a long time ago, who this kid was. Floyd can pick up the special ones, and he knew that kid was special. Okay, he's not the only one. Terrence Crawford's another special one. Okay, very special. Errol Spence with his footwork and so on is very special with his footwork. How he pivots and moves. These are special guys. Devin Haney, Devontae Davis, we know the special ones, right? When we see them. So the point anyway is this. Callum Smith should not be ashamed of nothing. Okay? You're only 30 years old. And you're learning still. And there's much to learn. And Joe Gallagher needs to show Callum Smith, you just didn't know certain things. It's just certain things you didn't know. We tried our best, but there's a lot still to learn in boxing. And once you were learning every day, Canelo is constantly learning every day. He is not sitting on his laurels and saying, I've reached. He's constantly learning boxing. He said to Eddie Reynoso, man, I'm committed to you till the day. If I got to die in that ring, I'm going to listen to you. Because Eddie Reynoso is really piling on knowledge upon knowledge upon knowledge to Canelo. Okay? All kinds of little subtle things Canelo's doing in that fight. All kinds of little subtle things. So it's not what you think it is. Maybe Canelo intentionally damaged Callum Smith's bicep. Maybe he threw a punch to the bicep and disrupted it at a certain point in time when Callum Smith was about to flex the muscle and disrupted the bicep. Who knows? Who knows? He's a tricky dude, like I said before. He could take that lead hand out by damaging the bicep, by the timing the punch the right way. Who knows? But the thing about it is, if Billy Joe Saunders doesn't go through that crucible, if Demetrius Andre doesn't go through, and I know Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andre had some tough fights. I saw Billy Joe Saunders go through through the crucible with what's that kid's name? Artef or whatever his name is, Arviv or whatever his name was. He went through the crucible with him. And I saw Demetrius Andre go through the crucible with a guy where he had to sit in the pocket and really go dig deep and just dig to the body. I saw that fight. But so I know those guys have gone through a certain crucible, but now they need to face a name fighter. And Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andre, they need to face each other before they face Canelo. If they don't face each other, they're not going to be ready for Canelo. Neither of them. Neither of them will be ready for Canelo. They have to go through that fire. You have to take it to the next level. You have to fight an elite A1 fighter. You have to. And neither of them has faced an elite A1 fighter. Well, Billy Joe Saunders faced Andy Lee, but you got to face champions. Canelo's been facing champions nonstop. How are you guys going to ever beat a guy that's facing champions nonstop like that? And we're not just talking about any kind of champion, because when we compare to Lomachenko faced a number of champions in a certain period of time, but they were champions, you know what I mean? They were champions, except for Guillermo Regalado, was a small guy though. They were champions, but they weren't the caliber of champion that Canelo's facing. Callum Smith was an easier champion for him to face, and he showed it the way how he prepared for it than was expected. Okay? And he made him do the same things he did to Sergey Kovalev. We've seen Canelo do it. We seen him do it to Triple G, back Triple G up, and Triple G got back up. We seen him do it to Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He's doing it to the stronger, bigger guys. He did it to Sergey Kovalev. He didn't do it to Danny Jacobs. He didn't back him up to the ropes, but he was walking to him, and Danny Jacobs would turn him, right? Now you see how good these guys were. Danny Jacobs wasn't no joke. Golovkin's not a joke. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who you guys were saying, he's a joke. He's bigger and stronger. Why ain't he pushing back Canelo? No, it's what Canelo was doing to him. And now Sergey Kovalev is another one. It's not that they. This is a perfectly in his prime fighter that was facing Canelo. He was healthy, came out of the fight not so healthy, but is a perfectly prime young guy like Canelo's age. Everybody said, "Oh, when he faces a young one, okay then." He did, made him look subpar, and that boy can fight. Callum Smith can fight. You see, Troy King has said this. He said that none of them can fuck with Canelo right now. He's on a totally different level. It's true. So check this out. You cannot have young fighters like, even though they're contemporaries of Canelo, he's experienced beyond years. You can't have guys like Demetrius Andre and Billy Joe Saunders who have good enough experience, and I think they're the best guys in the division. You know, what's his name? Even though Demetrius Andre is at 160, believe you me, those two are the best guys in the division. Not Jamal Charlo, not David Benavidez, not Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's still too young. The two best guys in the division are Demetrius Andre and Billy Joe Saunders, other than Canelo. It's not even Triple G. Okay? Those are the guys. They need to face each other. Billy Joe Saunders and Demetrius Andre, they need to face each other first. And the best guy that comes out of that, even the guy that loses, he's going to learn so much. Right? They need the experience. They need the tough fights to beat a Canelo. Otherwise, they're not going to beat Canelo. They're just not. They're way behind the curve. Canelo's got too much championship experience at the highest level. He's faced too much top tier guys. Those guys are not going to be able to do anything to him without that top tier experience. Okay? So my thing is, now if Devin Haney faces Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney would be able, or whoever wins would have that top tier experience because it's two elite fighters facing each other. The problem with Demetrius Andrade and with Jamal Charlo and with Billy Joe Saunders is they don't have enough elite competition. Okay, Jamal Charlo just faced Derek Vajenko, who's an elite guy and should have been world champion, right? So that's cool. And we're only talking 160 or 168, right? Demetrius Andre, he hasn't faced elite competition at 160. We know he faced Violence Martirosyan, Billy Joe Saunders, he faced some elite competition at 160. He faced Chris Eubank, who's right now the IBO world champion. Yes, he's not a WBC, but he's an elite guy. We got Chris Eubank Jr. We got he faced Andy Lee, who, was elite. He was an elite dude. So that's the two guys he has, right? That's not enough. Now, if you face a Demetrius Andre and Demetrius Andre face Billy Joe Saunders, the winner comes out of that to face Canelo. At least you've gotten really top tier competition. Them two guys not ready for Canelo. We know this. They're not ready for Canelo. They're not going to win the fight. They're not ready for Canelo. And Canelo, remember, Canelo is stronger now because he's had experience at 175. He's had experience at 175. And he knocked out a 175 pounder. And it ain't bullshit. He really knocked him out. So I'm saying you don't want to be going in there against Canelo subpar. Don't rush it. Them two guys should face each other. Billy Joe Saunders, don't chase after the fucking money. You're not going to win against Canelo if you're just chasing after his name. You guys need to become more composed, face each other. Whoever the victor that comes out of that will be prepared to beat a Canelo, at least a little bit more, because he's got a head start on all of them, big head start. But the guys who have the ability to beat him in that division is going to be Demetrius Andre and Billy Joe Saunders. But the best way for them to get prepared to face him is to face each other, not to observe from a distance how he's performing against guys and think, I could beat that. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. When you get in there, you realize what it really is. No, you can't. And as we see, Canelo versus Callum Smith was not a 50-50 fight. All right, it was not a 50-50 fight. Callum Smith fought his ass off, but it wasn't a 50-50 fight. Right? So, and he was supposedly the number one. I don't think of him as the number one, like the number one super middleweight, but he was crowned as the number one super middleweight. Okay, he couldn't beat Canelo. So you're not just gonna go in there thinking that because you have certain skill sets and stuff, and like Billy Joe Saunders, half-assedly preparing yourself for fights, you're gonna go in there and beat Canelo. It's not gonna happen. And Billy Joe Saunders needs to have a big fight. He needs to have a tough fight to be able to face a Canelo. He needs to fight somebody who has skills that are comparable to Canelo's. And the only guy I can think of that has that and some is Demetrius Andre. And you cannot be trying to protect your O, because if you try to protect your O to face a Canelo, I want a big Canelo. Listen, there's risks in boxing. And anyhow you take it, Canelo might even face the loser after he becomes undisputed. So let's say he becomes undisputed, right? We've seen this. Kell Brook lost to Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford picked him up, right? So you could be, you could be the loser of the fight. But obviously, if you lose the fight, that means you have to make some adjustments and you have to adjust your style and your game. So these guys should adjust their style in the game. That's what I'm saying. But at this present point in time, I'm be honest with you guys. I don't really see none of those guys beating Canelo right now. I'm just being brutally honest. They got skills and abilities and things, but what Canelo's bringing to the table is tricky. It's not just straightforward stuff. It's not straight. It's not what it appears to be when you're looking at it from the sidelines. It's only when you're directly in front of him. Because Canelo said it when they asked him, who? Why was it you were able to push Callum Smith back? He said, because I'm just better than him. I'm just better than him. And then so they asked again, what do you mean? He said, I made him think. I made him hesitate. Okay. And I know why. I told y'all, I'll break it down. I told y'all it's because he's feigning him. He's feigning him as if he's coming in. So he takes a step back because of that. I broke it down for you guys. I'm gonna catch you guys later on what you need in the building. That's the accomplishments that Canelo had. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Got a lot more boxing to talk, but for now, we're gonna just be radio silent for the minute and let all the other birds chirp in the trees. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace. I'm out.